a quick little video to show you, if you're a woman, I don't know if this works if you're a guy, how to measure your bone size. So this isn't your bone density. If you've got a problem with bone density, if you've got bone pain, etc., then I really would go and consult somebody. And that could be a naturopath, a homeopath, or you could go for a DEXA scan. A bone scan or a DEXA scan will be done in the UK on the NHS if your doctor is listening to you, but if they're not, you can get it done privately. So how to tell, and I learnt this from the Do-Can diet information. So it's a great way to know what your ideal weight should be, because a lot of us hop on the scales and then get really crucified if we're still weighing something like I do, like 10.5 stone. And it took me a long time to realise that slowly over time, post-children, post-menopause or during menopause, yes, our weight does change. But what I also found out was that the size of your bones has a lot to do with how much you weigh. So if your bones are large, you're going to weigh more on the scales, and that is it. And also that the number of pregnancies you've had, especially if you've brought those pregnancies to term, will determine your weight. There's so many contributing factors to women's weight. I could do a whole webinar or masterclass on it, and I probably should, but today I'm just going to show you something very simple, which when I learnt it made a lot of sense once I began to think about it. So I do a 10-day cleanse. I do it regularly. I do it 3 times a year. I often don't lose weight. I become more toned on the products. They're all superfood products, and that is very different to simply losing a lot of weight, which if you're overweight, you'll lose a lot of water initially. You will lose fat, particularly on this cleanse, and you will change your weight if you're holding a lot of water retention, and particularly if you're not doing a lot of exercise. There's all sorts of contributing factors to weight, and I find it more so with women. With men, they do the 10-day cleanse, they drop the weight, they get on the scales, and we're all wowed and envious. But for women, there can be a number of different factors. So pregnancies, and this would also relate to men, there's the weight of your bones, so the bone thickness, if you like. So how do you find out? Take your wrist, take your other hand, and you put your thumb and your forefinger around your wrist. Now for me, you can see that they don't meet. That means that I'm somebody with large bones. Whatever my height, I have large bones. If your thumb and forefinger meet like that, then you've got an average size bone. And if they overlap like that, then you've got fine bones. And it might be that it just depends on diet and lifestyle, but it might be as you get older, if you're a fine-boned woman, that you really need to learn to look after your bones more efficiently than somebody with heavy bones. Now, that's not an absolute mantra, because it really does depend on what you've done with your body. And looking right back over timelines, things like recreational drugs, not enough food, anorexia, these types of things will interfere with your bone structure. Coming along, there is medication that can interfere with your bone structure, and simply not having the right things in your diet. Stress can interfere with your bone structure. So if you lead a very stressed life and you're not putting in adequate nutrition, your body, in order to combust food and turn it into energy to deal with the stress, will borrow from your bones. So number one, when we come to bone health, is really to look at levels of stress in our life. Are we grounding? Are we taking time out in nature? Are we doing an exercise which is appropriate for us? So there's good and bad things, for instance, about HIIT, high intensity interval training. And I see that as a solution for an awful lot of issues. I see a lot of people saying that's absolutely what you must do as an older woman or woman going through menopause. But if you are leading a very high stress life, then it could be the absolute worst thing for you to do, because you're driving that state of utilizing up your body energy to borrow from the bones. So I can talk a lot more on weight, I can talk a lot more on how we look after our bones, but today I just wanted to show you that particularly when you're cleansing, if you're not losing a lot of weight as a woman, that could be a factor. What is your bone density like, and what's actually happening to your connective tissue, your muscle tone while you're on cleanse? So interesting, and yeah, if you've got questions, just pop them in the comments down below.